Okay, well, I was glad to hear we were all talking about chocolate. And I'll tell you why in just a minute. Oh, I'm a Hanukkah baby, so this is a favorite holiday for me. You all know the story of Hanukkah and the fight for religious freedom. You all know that the word Hanukkah means dedication. You are all dedicated to your families, your community, to Israel, to Torah Fund and Women's League. So, what could I share with you that you already don't know? So, those of you who know me know that I love chocolate and always supply some at my workshops. So, you will not be surprised that I'm going to share about the history of Hanukkah guilt today.
Ah,
In 142 BCE, 22 years after the temple was recaptured, Syria's king Antiochus VII told Simon the Maccabee that as Judea was now independent, the country had the right to mint their own coins. Many of the first coins were minted depicting cornucopia to symbolize the prosperity of the country during those years. Around 40 BCE, a coin was minted that portrayed the seven-branch menorah on one side and the table of shewbread on the other, both symbols of the restored temple. Just what is shrew, also called snow bread? It was 12 loaves of wheat bread corresponding to the 12 tribes of Israel. These loaves were placed on the table of the shewbread every Shabbat. Some scholars thought that these designs of the menorah and the table of the shewbread were introduced to remind people at Hanukkah as the celebration had been neglected for during this time. When the Second Temple was destroyed in 70 CE, Jewish coinage ceased until modern times. But during the Middle Ages, the custom of giving Hanukkah gelt emerged. It was the tradition to give Hanukkah gelt like a tip to the local Jewish teacher, as that was his primary means of support. At the end of the 19th century, the custom changed to giving children gelt. In the early 20th century, as Hanukkah was celebrated by the growing Jewish population in the United States, an American chocolatier called Loft came up with the idea of making gold-shaped pieces of chocolate wrapped in gold or foil, and that was our Hanukkah gelt. In the 1950s, from the candy maker Barton's, Jewish children could not only get chocolate coins, but chocolate Maccabee soldiers, elephants, which were used in the Maccabean battle, and lions, the symbol of the tribe of Judah. Do you remember these, some of you? I see some
yeah.
of you shaking your heads, yeah. But it was the gelt that endured and is still often used playing dreidel. Now, remember, I said that the Jewish coinage had ceased after the Second Temple was destroyed. But now, fast forward to shortly after Israel was founded. And in 1958, the Bank of Israel initiated a program of striking commemorative coins, special coins, for the use of Hanukkah gelt. To link modern Israel to ancient history, the first Hanukkah coin portrayed exactly the same menorah that had appeared on the last Maccabean coin some 2,000 years earlier. Each year since 1958, except for during 1964 to 71, the Hanukkah gelt coin has honored a different Jewish community around the world. In 1972, a silver coin was struck showing the 20th century Russian menorah, sending a clear message to the world about Soviet Jewry. On the 200th anniversary of the United States Declaration of Independence, The 1976 Hanukkah coin featured a colonial American menorah. They have also minted coins celebrating Greek jewelry, Polish jewelry, and more American jewelry, to just name a few. Check out the Bank of Israel's website if you want to see some pictures. And that is the story of Hanukkah Gelt. Happy Hanukkah to all of you, my friends.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you, Marilyn. And now I can't wait till we're done, and I'm going to go take a piece of gelt. But you made me think of it.
So Marilyn, that's the same. When I was many years ago, my aunt and I did a presentation for our sisterhood on the Jews of Greece. And that is exactly what, growing up in Greece, Hanukkah was a minor thing. And my dad said it used to be, the history was kids went around and collected coins from the grown-ups to give to their teachers. But my mom grew up in Germany where Hanukkah was huge because of Christmas.
Right.
Thank you. Very interesting. Julia, anything you would like to share with us this evening?
No, we've been very busy, even with the kind of break coming up. The office is closed between Christmas and New Year's, but we've been working on a lot of different projects, and I just want to wish everybody happy Hanukkah. I'm glad to be here
Same
with
to you. Same to you. I apologize ahead of time. I'm using my iPad. I keep things sort of quick on the go here so that I have you thank Kanahara on two separate screens. So I will do my best to go back and forth. If you are comfortable using the raised hand, that will help me not only see that your hand is up, it also helps know what order that the hands do go up. So tonight our topic is effective relationship building. I know that many of you over the many years have built up effective relationships, deep relationships from your actions as consultants. And that those women turn to you or recommend their friends turn to you so that they can get the answers they're looking for. They trust you. They trust consultants. So some of the questions that I'm going to pose are how have you developed relationships long distance, Zoom, phone, and out of the box creative means? And what do you use to nurture those long distance relationships? And I'd appreciate, as would Anise, if you would share examples of some of those successes of Women's League engagement that has worked. So I'll give you a moment to think about it. And I know that we'll all grow from hearing things that other people do and put them in our toolbox. Anyone like to start this evening with a comment? Now, I know that you have a wonderful relationships, and some of them are very long going, and just some of the ways that you do it and examples. If you don't raise your hand, I'll start calling on people. Thank you, Margie. It always takes, what is that first one to get it going?
Really, it's not that hard.
And I hear that you've had a few successful relationships during your years.
I've gone a few places, but understanding that not everyone travels as much as we did, and I still think we should, putting that aside. So understanding the limits now with Zoom, and it's not the visits, I think separate conversation. I think we should budget many, many more dollars for people to get out there. But putting that aside, it's not whatever you offer, whether it's a Zoom, whether it's a phone conversation, whatever that mentor, 2 hours or 20 hours or whatever it is, it can't just end there. And I think that's the trick. It can't just be problem solving in the moment. You have to become their friend on Facebook. You have to listen to what they say when their husband's having surgery next week, or they are poo-poo. You have to show up, a check-in. You literally have to put them back on your radar to keep that relationship going. And so whether it's 3 months later and you find an article and say, we were talking 3 months ago and I just saw this, I thought you'd be interested. You have to you really have to be proactive and not just the reactive is when they called you to say, help me fix my problems. But we have to take it past that. If we're not going to go out there every minute, which I think we should, then we have to just not make those interactions singular in nature. That we have to look and say, is there a way to expand this? It's kind of like every time I do a training, and even Leadership Institute, I never bring everything with me. I purposely leave a document home. I purposely leave for a workshop. I leave some document home that I can send it to them after the fact, because then that continues that dialogue after. And so we need to think in terms of that and make them not last the 2 hours or the 1 hour conversation, but literally Facebook, even Facebook, and happy birthday. And you send them whatever it is. We have to, just do that. We have to. And that's.
Thank you. Sandy.
Yeah, I think, to piggyback on what Margie's saying is you have to make that person feel important. You have to get to know them. And it's not just about sisterhood. It's about getting to know their family, getting to know what's happening in their lives and what makes them tick and behave the way they do. And that's a very important issue because it's not just about the situation at hand. It's getting to know the person, how they operate and how they manipulate, and why they do certain things and why they don't do certain things. And then you can kind of work your way around that once you get to know the person. They're just not a number, they're just not an affiliate. It's a person that's part of an organization. And sometimes, excuse me, it's good to remember that they're not, oh, we're calling because we're on the finance committee, or we're calling because we're on the membership committee. We're calling to see how you're doing. How are you? It's how we behave towards someone that builds, a relationship.
Thank you, Sandy. Mimi.
Yes. So nice to see you.
Good to see you.
As consultants and leaders in this fabulous organization, we are so blessed. Number one, we have so many different levels of friendships. We all started, thank God, in sisterhoods. We got to know a lot of people. If you're with an older synagogue, you have relationships that started maybe even as much as 50 years ago. And the funny thing is, when you have that kind of relationship, it doesn't matter where that conversation ended the last time. You can just continue that conversation all over again when you see them again, even if it's months from now. So that's the sisterhood level. Then on the region, same kind of a situation. If you've made yourself active in the region, you know exactly what's going on there. You can, by being there, you know that you can be a help, and they too will recognize that you are a help to them. And then when you get to the international level, oh my God, it's like phenomenal when I see you all, when I see you in person. It's that kind of a relationship. It just doesn't end, and that's the way it should be. And it's just a wonderful situation that all of us are in.
Agreed. And Mimi, you and I started almost 50 years ago in our sisterhood at that level.
That's why that figure rang to me.
Yes. Yes. Renee.
Okay, so I agree with what everybody's said so far, but and I've been working with the region presidents, and in the beginning, I did get to know their families. That was our first phone call. Just tell me about yourself and who you are, what you do, what your goals are, and whatever. But I think the important thing is to schedule the time, put it on your calendar, and make sure that you follow up. Because if you just say, oh, I'll call you in 3 months, 4 months later, you're saying, oh my gosh. So at least I am. So I think that's important too. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Debbie?
I have certainly not had the years of experience that you all have, but I feel like I'm constantly saying this to my affiliate sisters that it's all about relationship building. Some people are, my husband's one of them, out of sight, out of mind with the relatives. Like he doesn't, they call him when they need something and he calls them when there's something, but they don't make an effort to stay in touch. And I'm the one who makes the effort with the relatives. And I feel like because of that, when Women's League sisters make that effort, it's lifelong friendships. I will hear from friends in the region. We don't talk often, but all of a sudden I'll get a phone call from one, or I'll think of somebody, I'll be driving and I'll call them. And it has to be a two-way street, but there is something about Women's League women that just changed my life. The relationships that Mimi can call me for something. We may not have talked for 8 months, but it's as if we talked,
That's
last week. And I think but it takes a two-way street. And I think that's something that's not everyone is great at, but I will say we have one woman from the last Leadership Institute. She is the first one to send an email for a holiday, or she's going to go far because she really cares about relationships, and it shows.
Great. Phyllis, you were next.
I think when we go out and we ask people why they're involved with Women's League or why they're involved with their affiliate, it's always the people. And I think that's what's so strong is the bonds between the women. It's been a long time since I've gone out and done workshops and consulting, but I always had a sheet that said, follow up with Phyllis. And I made sure everyone had them. And when I collected the surveys afterwards, I said, just write something down on the sheet. And then when the sessions were over and I was back home, I had some reason to contact the women that were at that program or at that workshop that I had done. But I had a really wonderful relationship as a mentor. It started out with a sisterhood president who had a problem. And literally within a month or two, we had managed to solve the problem. And she was really an emerging leader and extremely bright. And I basically said, we've done this. She said, no, I want to continue talking. And so each time we met, we scheduled another session for the next month. We had our regular time, but sometimes it didn't work out and we redid it. And we talked about what Women's League was doing, what she was doing with her sisterhood, the programs. There were always like suggestions that went. And literally, we talked for 2 years, which
Beautiful.
I really missed the calls when, her presidency was over and she was moving on. But I was hoping she would get, back involved and maybe move up to the region level. But it was a 2-year, once a month relationship. And, I knew the family and the illnesses and a new grandchild born. And it was just a fabulous relationship the whole time, something to look forward to.
Thanks for sharing that, Phyllis. Meryl.
Okay, coming back to knowing the family and everything, I know in my sisterhood, there's always a question. We always have the husband's name in parentheses after our name. And like, should we take the husband's name out? Why do we have the husband's name? I find it very helpful that when I call up somebody and a man answers, I say, oh, hello, Michael. Is this, that you have the name, that it's like on a casual first name basis. So I think it's important that we always include where it's available, the husband's or some significant other's name, so that when they answer the phone, it could be a more personal phone call.
Thank you. Thank you. Marilyn.
Thank you. So the one thing I want to do is piggyback on something that Margie said about going out and visiting with people. Because I know that during COVID, obviously, Zoom was wonderful for all of us, and that was great. For me, it was particularly great to have all the Zooms during Bruce's illness because I couldn't go and do things, but this gave me a way to see everybody. But I think it's that person kind of touch when you go out and you're together and you can give somebody a hug who you haven't seen in a long time. I think that sometimes that's what we have been missing. I know that getting consultants to get out into sisterhood affiliates has been a challenge. And I'm not saying that this is just under this term, this administration. It's a constant challenge for years. I do recognize that. But it's getting out there in person and making those connections. When I was region president, I just used to call up the sisterhood affiliates, especially those that were out of state, and just say, when can we book time for me to come and be with you and visit and whatever? And I was a little, obnoxious about it sometimes, but I really wanted to get to be all. I see you smiling, Renee. But I wanted to get to all of them, and I had one president in particular. It took me 3 years that I finally got out that last time, to get to her. And it's a challenge, and we have to work hard at that. And I just want to stress that I think those personal contact, whether it's going to the region, events that you go, and even at convention, Marcia, are you listening? Even at convention, when we have those opportunities to get together in groups, whether it's all the consultants get together or the region president class or whatever it happens to be, that's really meaningful. And I think that that's something that we just need to keep trying to do more and more. So.
Thank you. You're never obnoxious, Marilyn. I don't know what you're talking about. Sandra?
I guess just what everybody has said, I was remembering and thinking about when Margie, it took many, many months for Margie to get to California the last time she was here. And when she came, there were about 6 or 8 of us who were able to connect. And she worked really, really hard to bring us together. And it worked. And there's nothing like being in person with each other. And Renee as our, and Julia as our president, and Renee as our region president. What, mom? Is that what you are? They reach out to us. They call us. They want to talk with us and know how we are. And there's nothing like the personal touch. And this time, as my second time around as a president, being with the affiliates, they tell you it means so much to them when we come in person, not just on Zoom, but when we're together in person, they see we're real people. And that we have feelings and we have families. You all know I do, because I've been babysitting this child since he was months old. And here we are, I'm still babysitting. And now he's 6, huh? Anyway, there's nothing like connection. There's nothing like the human touch. And I can't say enough of that. And as a region president and as a sisterhood president, just connecting with people and letting them know you care and wanting to be a part of the team and participating. That's what Women's League is all about. We're a gift to each other. And happy Hanukkah. I'm going to go back.
Terrific. And maybe you'll share a little bit of that hugging and loving that you're getting there. It's delicious.
I do that.
I know. Rachel?
So I became a consultant during COVID. And I didn't have the opportunity for the most part to go out and connect in person. But for me, I think what really makes a difference is being a good listener. I don't always insist that we meet on a Zoom call. I'm often just as comfortable doing it by phone. That way we can schedule it more easily. The women I'm talking to might be in their cars, they might be, out and about, but the timing works out fine. being a good listener and letting them know they're being heard. And so oftentimes they call when they're seriously stressed out. They're very upset. They want someone who will help them, but the first order of business is just letting them go on and on about whatever it is, listening patiently, and then don't just mollify them, but problem solve with them. Use what you know about them that are their strengths to work on whatever this problem is that's making them absolutely crazy. And, you know, it's not rocket science. It's personal connection. It's sometimes mirroring back to them the emotion they're having, telling them you understand it, telling them we've all been there, and just being supportive.
Thank you, Rachel. Marcia, good to see you. Unmute, please.
I'm sure most of you know that I go back a long way. Started out in Women's League, or actually in Central New Jersey branch, working on the administration of Renee's mother-in-law, Elaine. So that was in the mid-70s. So you all can do the math. And I've been involved in Women's League, Sisterhood, Region, and Women's League ever since, in various forms, various jobs. As a consultant, I used to go out, which I loved. I absolutely loved when I could travel to the regions, but I can't do that anymore. So I mentor, and I'm thrilled with doing that. But it is the personal connections. It's the talking, it's the keeping in touch. Even if I don't see somebody, sometimes from one convention to another. But it's the hugs, it's the phone calls, it's the how are you? It's the feeling that the people in this room and the people on this screen, whether you do or you don't, I feel that you care about me. And whether sometimes I think my opinions count, and sometimes I think I'm just so old that it really doesn't matter what I have to say. But the feeling, the connection is there. Because when you do something for 50 years, there's got to be a reason in the organization that you love what you're doing. Otherwise, you're really crazy to hang on to the friendships in an organization for 50 years. And that has been my life. That has been my volunteer work since the mid-70s has been Women's League. And it's been a wonderful ride. And I don't want to give it up. So
we don't want you to.
So as long as I can do something and feel useful, I'm going to stay on this ride.
Thank you for sharing.
So that's my comment for tonight. I don't know what the question was because I came in late, but that's
well, somehow you hit the nose. I agree with everything everyone's saying, and I'm one of those organization people who has to see how it looks like. So it's something that I have found to be helpful, especially when dealing with someone who I don't have the relationship that I have with most of you. You know, that sisterhood, we haven't met. Perhaps it's only been on Zoom or by phone call. As they speak, I'm listening for the Women's League stuff, but I'm writing a tickler system for I'm concerned about next week's meeting when we're having a vote. And 2 days after that meeting, I call them. Or my kids are coming in and this is happening, or whatever it is. And just sometimes a phone call, just sometimes a note, sometimes a Torah phone card. I keep in my calendar like the appropriate time, not just for Women's League to be in touch, but, you know, to reach out and say, so how did that prolonged visit with your extended family go where they moved in for 2 months? How are you doing? Well, you know, anything you need now, and little things in between. And I know that many of us do that, but as someone said before that, I think it was Renee, like writing it so and having that exact. I always try to have when's the next time we're going to talk, but even more so, when's the next time we can reach out? And I'm sure, like many of you, for some reason in the last few weeks, I have received from former presidents who I worked with, from one woman who I had to look up her name because, of course, they never say what sisterhood they're from. And I had to Google her in my files to see who she was. And I think her message was, going to have a similar meeting. Can I pick your brain? Well, I had to pick my brain first. But that's, I know that's the kind of thing that we want them to be kind to doing. And I remember calling her because she had mentioned to me that she was going to have knee surgery. So I reached out to her after her knee surgery. Now I have a new best friend to hug at a convention. Does anyone have any additional specific feel-good stories of things that worked with relationship building? Anise.
Thank you. So I just wanted to add, follow up on something that Margie had mentioned, which is that I'm not a Facebook person, but I do send messages and GIFs and Bitmojis via text, and that's taken on a life of its own with the recipients who receive them. And I don't know, there are a number of Women's League members who I have these exchanges with, and it definitely has enhanced the relationships. It's not just all about Women's League business.
Thank you. Anyone else? Has anyone come up with something that maybe you want to try or going to do as we hit this next almost next administration and as we carry on? All right. Anything you want to add to this topic, Anise?
I did want to say something else about the in-person visits, and they are important and they are definitely beneficial, and they definitely give us opportunities to observe things that we wouldn't necessarily observe just on a Zoom, and certainly not from a one-on-one phone call or a conference call. But there aren't always those opportunities to visit in person because of the request that a affiliate has made. The workshop itself is of a shorter time frame, and the cost to send someone to go there is not in sync with what the request and the fulfillment of it are. So I certainly encourage region presidents to make as many in-person visits as possible. And when it's in a wide geographic area, to definitely, plan those trips and maximize who's being visited. But from a consulting services point of view, it's a little more complicated. And a perfect example is that last year there was an affiliate in the Midwest who wanted Carol Simon to come for a 60-minute workshop. I don't think I have to say anything further. I mean, it's just not going to work that way unless she were in the town next door. Similarly, I went and I was going to be in an area in Connecticut, which is not my back door, but there was an affiliate that I was working with that I intentionally made a point of getting together when I was in that area so that we could meet face to face and further discuss what we'd been discussing on Zoom and on the phone. But again, I took advantage of a personal thing that I was doing that was going to be in the geographic area, but not every one-on-one with an affiliate lends itself to it, and we certainly don't have the budget to be able to send consultants to other geographic areas for a single workshop of 60 minutes, 90 minutes, maybe 2 hours. It's, that's one of the practicalities that I think we have to recognize. That's where we can use the other technology available to us.
Renee.
Okay, so Anise, I have a lot to comment on what you said. Thank you for jogging my mind. So first of all, a lot of this will have to be addressed in the next administration. And I don't know who that next person will necessarily be, but we need to really think about the conferences in 2027 and get those set very early and get the conference consultants set, because in 2027 is when we expect that a conference consultant will be required in person. We're not doing it this year because it's a convention year. Everything is in a transition because our administrations between regions and Women's League International are syncing. So that's something to keep in mind. I think even with the I agree that region presidents should be going out to visit, and they have been encouraged this whole time to continue to go out to the affiliates. Not everybody is good about that, and it's certainly in some areas it's a little more difficult. I also think that the region presidents, though, may not be able to address certain issues that only a consultant can do. So we have to keep that in mind also. I think we have to encourage the region presidents, unless they've been completely trained and have experience as a consultant, to share that information with consulting services. And the last thing I'd like to suggest going forward is to assign consultants by the area in which they live. When I was in consulting services chair, we tried to train people in different regions so that we could do that. And then it was the pandemic, so we couldn't do that. People weren't going out. But I think that's something to consider going forward. So unless it's, my affiliate that wants a consultant, I wouldn't do that because I advise them all the time. And they would probably want somebody else. But I can go to any other affiliate in PSW and work with them and visit in person. So I think those are all things to keep in mind going forward.
I'd like to add something to what you said, Renee. You were jogged, I'm jogged. As a consultant, it's great to have a good relationship with our own region president, because they, as you say, they get those challenges that maybe they're not as comfortable with, or they recognize they're ready to answer. In the last administration, I remember in Mid-Atlantic region, we were reaching out to those far-flung for our geography who never came. And I was working with the president as her advisor, and with her as advisor anyway. And the other Sandy B and I took a road trip with her and had lunch with a few of the sisterhoods in that geographic area. And the president, we made sure, was highlighted, but we were there to have her back. And I think that perhaps some of the more reluctant or inexperienced presidents might feel good if you say, hey, listen, if you're going to do something, if you want someone else to come along with you, just reach out. And that has been helpful. Anyone else?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Marilyn, I'm sorry.
Right.
That little thing. And then after that, Debbie, I see.
Okay. So, one of the things that I had thought about during my time as consulting services chair was to actually send consultants out into an area. Same way, Julia or their international presidents travel and they go and they visit with the sisterhoods, as many as they can in an area. to get maybe it can be more than one consultant, but to get a couple consultants into an area, basically say, we're going to be in this area on these dates, and we want to meet with you. And the same way for a while we did like region area events, and to have us be like there's a consultant there. And they're going to talk to you, and it doesn't have to be just for one sisterhood. It could be a few sisterhoods. But I mean, and I understand it costs money to send people traveling, to do that type of thing. But I think doing something like that regularly, taking each of the 13 regions and having, maybe it's 1 week out of a year where you could say, okay, we're going to send, Debbie and Marcia down into Southern, and they're going to sit and be in Southern this week and at these different locations, and we hope that you'll be able to come and visit with them. Because I don't think we can allow the connection that our membership has be only with our international president on that level, and hopefully, the region president and maybe someone else in the region. But I think as an organization, we could be stronger if they see us as more than just those different people, just the international president, just those region people. But I mean, I understand there's an expense involved, but I think to do something like that and really get out into our sisterhoods, to make those personal connections, I see a value in that.
Thank you, Marilyn. Debbie.
To piggyback what Marilyn just said, I feel like until I went to a region conference or even convention, I didn't really understand Women's League. When you're in your affiliate and you go to your sisterhood meetings, you don't really understand the big picture. And I feel like my sisterhood's former president came to Leadership Institute, came to convention very green, and just fell in love with Women's League and talks about it at every meeting and spreads that enthusiasm. And so if we are just this nebulous thing to some of the affiliate members, they don't really have a sense. And so I think if we can't get them to come to a region conference or to convention, we have to go to them. We have to show them the value of the friendships. That, when someone comes to my sisterhood from the region and she's attacked by a group of us hugging, and they see that relationship and they think, I want that. But we have to show it to them. We can't just talk about it. And I think having, they all know Margie now, and, and they know Carol Simon. And so even when their names come up at a meeting, eyes light up, faces light up. We need to expose our women at our affiliate level, because to many of them, they don't really get it. And it's sad because they're missing out.
Thank you, Debbie. Marcia?
I just want to say I agree totally with Debbie and Marilyn. And unfortunately, you can't always do an area, because if you get into Intercontinental or you go to North by Northwest, there are no, I mean, you could come to Austin and maybe get to San Antonio, but it's an hour and a half away. It's not, they're not going to come here. My sisterhood used to have a consultant come every year and do a board training. And she was here for a day. Now, you're going to say, well, it's not worth it. But it was worth it to my sisterhood. We now have a board who know, other than what I tell them, nothing about Women's League. They're all new people. They're not people that have been around for years and years, and they don't get it. If we had a consultant come again and we tried the Zoom thing, it's not as good. It's just not. And if we had somebody come, I really think it would make a difference. And I think we need to find the money to make it worthwhile.
I think
So a challenge for the next administration.
I've just, yes and no, because we set the budget this year for the next administration, and I've just sent an email to Limor Wasserman, who's the budget chair, that we need to include that as we work on the budget in February.
Thank you, Julia.
Thank you, Julia.
You know, if we want future leaders, if we don't invest in going to them and building those connections, there won't be future leaders because they will not be connected to the organization. So it's money well spent. It's an expensive investment, but it will pay off in the future.
Thank you. Margie.
It's not that it works in every place, but we have to be smart because it is expensive to fly around the block these days. But I remember years ago, I got a call from one of the Houston sisterhoods to do a training. And I said, I'll come. Of course, we had the money and we had the budget. And I was going to come. I said, but not for nothing. Why don't we do all the sisterhoods? And I had the four of them, the four sisters together. So it was worth our money. And it was a day. But by the time that day was over, you know, everybody heard the same messaging. Everybody got together. It was an area event in one way. It bound them together. And it really, so we can be smart, maybe not in a far-flung place. There's no one else around town. You know, if I go to Iowa, you know, you're going there and there's nobody next door. But when there's an opportunity for a partnership or piggybacking, then we should be smart about it. I remember going when I stayed at Carol Maller's, and I spend there 14 days, I think. And of course I had the time. I went to every single sisterhood from Santa Clarita down to Reyes Palos Verdes, every single one. It was impactful that I was there for almost 2 weeks and went to every single one, little ones, big ones. It didn't matter. Why are you coming? It doesn't matter. You're supporting us. We're supporting you. So, but we can be smart when there's someone that says, come down for an hour. We don't come down for a speech. You know, can you speak for Sister Shabbat? Well, if you're the president of Women's League, you can do that. We can't send a consultant for $500-600 for a 12-minute speech. But I never, when I used to take that, even when I was president, I said, yes, I'll come, but I'm not coming for a 12-minute speech. And I said, so I'll be there for the whole weekend. So I spoke on Friday night, I spoke on Shabbos morning, I spoke on Saturday afternoon, and I did a training on Sunday. So that we got our money's worth of my time. And there are some sisterhoods now that actually pay me to come for the whole weekend. That's not in our budget. But again, I'm not coming for a 12-minute speech. And they know that. So if they want me to sit there and speak 4 times, 5 times, and be their scholar resident, whatever they call me, on their dime, but that's how you get your money's worth. But piggybacking with a neighborhood sisterhood, and again, that Houston group was the 4 sisters together that did it. And there are places that we can physically do that. There are places we can't, but we can be smart about that and try to
Thank you,
them,
Margie.
do that. So,
Sandra.
I concurred with when Renee mentioned about consulting in your geographic area, because I know for a fact that trying to build a sisterhood and having members join and participate when they really don't understand who we are and what we are is really, really important. And so if a consultant lived in our area, even on Zoom, a lot of times I don't get people on Zoom. I get region people on Zoom, but I don't necessarily get people from my sisterhood. And that's a big challenge. And so if someone like Margie or Renee or whoever came, they would get a taste of Women's League. And Julia, come to Northern California, come to Washington, you're always invited. But that is a key to building membership, understanding Women's League. And you guys are the key to that, or we are the key to that, or one of the keys. And maybe if we can't afford to send people all across the country, but if people live in the area or in the nearby, it might make a difference.
Thank you. Sherry Lynn.
Well, I really agree with what has been said the last 2 or 3 speakers about needing to have someone come in and if they can spend a day or 2 and visit 3 or 4 sisterhoods that are close by. And I'm sure, at least I would hope, that the sisterhoods would be willing to do that, because I see that I can talk till I'm blue in the face about how wonderful Women's League is, but because most of the other women in the sisterhood have not gone to the region conferences and certainly not to the international conferences, conventions, they really don't know and they really do not understand. So I think it'd be money well worth it if it could be arranged.
Thank you. Renee?
Okay. I appreciate what Margie has said and everybody has said. A couple of years ago when I was region president, Rita Wortley was international president, and we set up 4 area events, and we had a board meeting, and we had a consultant that came along with us from our region. But nowadays it's hard to get people together in those numbers. And again, I hate to keep saying it, we got out of practice with the pandemic of going out and visiting and seeing and being together. And I think it's going to require some sort of education on our part or another format where we can get groups together, because I've heard from region presidents where they tried to get a couple of sisterhoods in a city together and they can't. So if they can't do that for a region event, how are they going to do that for a consultant? Unless they know the value of why that's happening. So I think there's some education we need to do with our affiliates.
Thank you. Marilyn?
I've thought of one more thing. I may not go quite far as back as Marcia, but I still do go back a bit, Marcia. And I remember when one of our selling points was that every sisterhood affiliate is entitled to have a consultant every single year come and meet with you. And we use that as a selling point. This is what you get, or one of the things that you get for your per capita. And that seems to have disappeared. And again, I understand with Zoom, with the pandemic, and having to go on Zoom. But I think that might be something we need to get back to.
We still promote that with our per capita information.
But
we do that. That's one of the benefits of their per capita is having a consultant.
But
we
that goes
need
back to the
more
educational part.
Yeah, but we need to do more than just saying it's a line, in the list of what you get for your per capita. It's making phone calls to sisterhoods and hey, did you know that you can have a consultant come out free of charge? Just got a feeder, I always said, and then and that's it. And that we can send somebody out to you and what's a good time and that kind of thing. I think it's being more proactive. And that's just a thought of just getting back to that, trying it again.
Marilyn, I also go back to that, and I remember that there were sisterhoods that every year wanted it, but it's the sisterhood that you wanted to get it who was the most reluctant. That many years later, that society, I think that we have to put on our thinking caps and come up with a new hook. A new hook to get us into the sisterhood, because they don't want, when they have a problem or they perceive they have a problem and they think that we might know more than them, which is not a lot of all the sisterhoods as we find as we're dealing with per capita and offering them mentors. We get them, but it's, what you don't know that you don't reach out for. So it's that creative way to get in there, because we still have said, when I was financial secretary, it was like, yes, and this entitles you to someone who will be your consultant and things like that, and explaining that. And no, thank you. And we even had some people would say, I don't want someone else coming in and telling me what to do. So that's what I mean by a hook. If we have something else tangential to Women's League to offer them, and why we're there, we know that when they say that they have questions about something, once we're there, we find out or start talking to them, we find out what's at the root cause and what they really want to know and what they need to know.
And even if we've got, I don't know if it's 400 sisterhoods, Julia, approximately, or whatever, realistically, we're not going to get into 400 sisterhoods. But if you start getting into say 10%, you get to 40, and then the word kind of gets out and you build up from that. I think it's something that we could be working on because we do need to really be connecting with our membership on a greater level.
All right. Well, I hope that you've enjoyed the conversation and gotten as much out of it as I have. I want to thank Anise, who this was her baby, putting it all together, something we needed. I'm glad that Julia was on and listening because, perhaps we can have some action. I want to put a plug in for the toolbox. If you have not come, go on and see it. Anise just sent the link. I was very happy to be at both of them. I go through the names. There were names there I did not know who had questions, and we'll continue the questions, and it was very lively. So I invite you to not only attend it, but as you're talking to your mentees, to encourage them to attend the series and at the least to register for it so that they have that as a resource. I think it's been a wonderful service.
And Sandy, those people who you don't recognize, to me, are people that should be reached out to and say, are you aware that you can have a consultant come out and come to your sister? Because at least there's some interest. So to me, there's a starting point for us to work with.
And Anise and I have talked about the people who were there, and it's like, do you know this one? Do you not? I'm figuring out who they are and that kind of thing. And that's part of my point. Perhaps if more consultants watch, perhaps even if you can't be there, you'll recognize someone you know from your region or your sisterhood. And you can say, hey, you were there. Do you have any follow-up questions? We're here for you, because sometimes beside the people who are conducting those calls, and all of the facilitators have been excellent, beside those ladies, knowing that, wow, you're part of that too, because they know you as the person who says you know something about Women's League at your sisterhood meeting, but they don't put together all the services. And I think, I know that I've learned a lot from them, and I think that I recommend them to everyone. And I thank those who have put it together. Does anyone else have any business before we get to good and welfare that you want to include? Anise.
So I just wanted to remind everyone that if you register in advance for the Toolbox Talk, the link comes straight to your Women's League page, and then you don't need to make any effort looking for the link. I know a number of you have registered because I get copies of the registrations. So I'm just reminding those of you who haven't, you can register for the remaining 4. The next one is in February. We're skipping January. Next one will be in February, but definitely register for them so that you can watch the videos at your convenience if you can't attend in person.
Okay, Debbie.
Doing a plug for Leadership Institute. Registration has been slow. It doesn't seem to matter if there's a holiday, if people are just last minute Charlene's. So if there are women in your affiliate, women in your region, talk it up, because we need more women, and the women who come love it. It just, I don't know why it's such pulling teeth to get them there. So if you know people, encourage it. Thanks.
Thank you. I've always said once you go there, you understand how important it is. It's the same as once your sisterhood has a consultant and you have that relationship, you want to have them again. So again, all right. Well, Anise included us Hanukkah babies, Marilyn and I, who yours is coming, I believe, next week, Marilyn. Mine was just Monday, and mine was just last week. Meryl, and we hope that you continue to heal so that you're ready for your next medical adventure. Same to Margie. For those of you who are traveling, whether to Florida or anywhere else over the winter, I wish you safe travels. Anyone have anything to add? Anise?
Well, Meryl Balaban, we wish you a Mazel Tov and many more years together,
Oh,
since you'll be celebrating your 55th wedding anniversary, you mentioned?
Yes, yes, thank you.
that's wonderful.
Oh,
Margie,
You
I'm
didn't realize
having
I was
my
that old. What?
my reunion luncheon in February so that Marilyn Berkowitz could be there. And I saw Debbie Green this past week. We had lunch, and I haven't seen Randy. I've been here for a whole 2 weeks, Randy. But I just wanted to share something with Marilyn. I lived in a section of Baldwin called Loft Estates for many, 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 many years. The Loft Candy family still have the mansion there, and then they took the land and built, but X amount of houses. And I lived on Loft Estates from the Loft Candy family. So it was fun to hear you say that about the Gelt from the Loft before Barton took them over and bought them out. So, and Toby knows where I was, right? Yeah.
anything else? Well, with that, again, I wish you happy Hanukkah, happy
You
New
too,
Year,
everyone. Happy Hanukkah.
happy New Year.
Happy.
Our next meeting is on January 21st. Anise, I wish you could continue recovery and getting that voice back. You sound better this evening than you did earlier today, as you told me.
Thank you.
So was glad to step in tonight, and I hope everyone has a good evening ahead of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy
Good night.
Hanukkah, everyone.
Stay healthy, stay warm.
Excellent.